Welcome back, my homies. I recently got to actually play a game of D&D as a player for the first time in a very long time, and it got me thinking about role-playing in D&D, and thinking about D&D is fun. So you have watched the shows, you have seen the movie, and you've played the games, and you're finally ready to take the final steps of your initiation into nerddom. You're about to sit down at a table with a few other people, and you're about to pretend to be a goblin with a mullet and explore the Sword Coast for the very first time. Well, today let's talk about some of the best ways you can dive right into D&D for the very first time as a player and embrace the role-playing part of the world's greatest role-playing game. But real quick, if you share our passion for all things D&D and crave a channel dedicated to the love of the game and not the industry noise, you are in the right place. Help us grow by tossing a sub and leaving a like if you enjoy the video. So let's get started. Tip number 1, first time at the table, no idea how to roleplay? Just roleplay yourself in the game. Just make the character you. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's a great way to put yourself in first person perspective and react realistically. Tip number 2, don't worry about alignment. I don't. I have a lot of opinions about alignment. I feel like it's often used as a tool for someone else to tell me how I should be running my character. Instead, visualize your player, your character, his or her personality, their past, their present, and their future goals, and then make decisions that make sense in the moment to that character. As you continue to play the character, you're just going to become more close to the character. You're going to know them like your best friend. Tip number 3, keep your backstory brief and leave room for your DM to add to it and use it. Some of the best gameplay happens when a DM can reach into a backstory and pull up a plot line that uses it. So give them room to do it. Mention where your character has lived, what groups or factions they've been involved in, mix in a little drama, and leave some things open-ended. Tip number 4, never played D&D, lost on locations, factions, and lore? It's endless. Ask your DM to fill in the blanks. If you want your character to come from a cool frontier town, he could suggest Phandalin. Or maybe he's a street urchin, so Waterdeep. Your DM will help you put words with your vision, and before you know it, you're going to have a complete backstory that fits what you want out of your character. Tip number 5, when you sit down at the table for the first time, you're going to feel awkward. Improv, role-play, and imaginations are muscles we haven't stretched since childhood. Just relax and understand everyone is there to be just as foolish and nerdy as you. Tip number 6, when your DM describes a scene or shows a map, remember your character isn't floating above that scene. They are in it. So what you do and what you say and what you perceive are through the eyes of the character, not you as the player. Tip number 7, speaking of scenes, if your DM describes a scene, feel free to add to it. If they say you are walking through a cemetery when you hear a noise up ahead, it's perfectly valid for you to say, I reach down and I pick up a rock and I throw it ahead of us. The DM didn't specifically describe a rock at your feet, but it would probably be there. It's not possible for the DM to paint a complete picture of a scene, and it's great when players help build it by imagining what would be there and interacting with it. Tip number 8, and regarding scenes in combat, remember that the map exists to aid us in a tactical battle, but the very best battles in D&D transcend the map. Interact with the world around you because you are seeing it through the eyes of your player. Grab the torch off the wall and throw it at the barrels in the back, igniting a fire, obscuring vision, and causing everyone around to cough and gag from the smoke. Suddenly, the world is real. Tip number 9, and your DM will appreciate this one. Flavor your fights yourself. The DM can only go so far, and you are the master of your own character. So when you throw a spell or your blade plunges into that little goblin bastard, flavor it up with describing how you do it. I swing my sword up, ripping deeply into the chest of the goblin, and shout out, "This is the end now, runt!" The DM can use this type of flavor to change the tactics of monsters in response to it. The older female goblin screams in terror and lunges at you, attempting to grapple you by shouting, "Leave my son alone, you monster!" Tip number 10, get to know the other characters. Not the players and not their character sheets, but the actual character. Listen to them as they roleplay and as they describe their character, and have your character make assumptions about them the same way you would if you were meeting someone for the first time in real life. Use these assumptions to interact at a deeper level. You're trying to push a desk out of the way of a door. Ask the giant barbarian to help you, not the scrawny guy in robes. You can't read a language? I bet the scrawny guy in robes can help. He looks smart. Tip number 11, remember that D&D is collaborative, so avoid designing a character personality that is counter to the goals of the group. There's lots of talk about agency in the hobby, but if your character has traits that harm the fun of the game, that lower the tempo, or disrupt the flow of the game, you should consider tweaking them to fit in more. It can be a lot of fun to have characters who dislike each other or otherwise do not get along. But if the drama is taking more of the spotlight than the plot of the game, it's an issue. Tip 12, finally do what is comfortable for you. The goal is to have fun, and the pressure you're perceiving is not real. Voices are great, for example, but it's not needed. People who use them for sure add something to the table, but there's no law that says you have to use silly voices to play a character. If it's not in your wheelhouse, then just use your normal voice, but stay true to your character, the words they're saying. Whether it's you in a fantasy world or some completely fictitious character that you have fleshed out and brought to life. And finally, as a bonus, just remember that the more you let yourself go, the more you release your own insecurities and dive into your character in first person, the more you will get out of the game. Everyone around you is going to enjoy the game more because you became your morally challenged rogue or your slow but kind-hearted Goliath. The game lives in these moments. And that's it, guys. Now get out there and buy way too many dice sets, grab some snacks, and disappear into the lands of Faerun. Your character's story isn't going to write itself. And if you think I left off any tips, please share them in the comments for all the other viewers, and be sure to subscribe. Have a killer week, and I'll see you guys next time.